Hey guys, it's Coffee. Welcome back to Asagao Academy. Let's read journal entries one more time. Alright. Okay. Dear Diary, Jared and I have been practicing literally every hour for the past 3 days. It's to the point where I feel like it's almost detrimental. The lack of sleep and constant drilling might be making the lessons stick less in my head than if we just worked as usual. And now we have the tournament, and I haven't had time to practice. I haven't been this stressed in a while, but I feel like I'm dying. Dear Diary, Jared's dancing was spectacular. I admit I was a little distracted by the imminent crisis, but as soon as he focused in, I was entranced. He was hot. He was sensual. He was sexy. Oh my god, I wrote it. Yeah, it's true. It's always sexy when a guy can dance. But anyway, so yeah, last time I actually managed to win the tournament somehow. So yay, I'm 2 for 2. But now we have the tea ceremony to worry about, and let's just hope that Hana doesn't embarrass herself or Jared. Yeah, and I think this might be like the last episode of this route, it seems. So yeah. Anyway, let's continue. Jared and I sat on the train, chugging slowly towards the city. I had my full yukata on. Jared told me he didn't believe his mom would leave a room for me to change in. Just another way to sabotage me. In my lap sat a small satchel, the same one Mai had used when she kidnapped Jared and me and took us to the beach. My regular Asagao uniform was in there, along with my normal Roots Club jacket. I didn't need it, but having it with me gave me a surge of pride and hope. If I could do that, I could do anything. There wasn't much we wanted to say to each other. Nothing much we could say to each other. I knew what was going on in Jared's mind. A blind flurry of panic, anxiety, and guilt. Throughout my lessons, he profusely apologized for having put me into the position where I had to do something like this. No matter how I tried to assure him that I didn't care, that it was worth it for him, he wouldn't let it go. Anytime my eyes drooped or I yawned, if my stomach growled or my mind wandered, I saw the same look of guilt across his face. Now he sat, chin in his hand, watching as the train slowly pulled into the station. I drew the rough fabric together in my fist. It was time to meet Jared's mother. When we stepped out of the station, Jared flagged down a taxi. We had to drive for a solid 30 minutes, through the city streets and then into something like the countryside. Slowly we rose into the mountains, before finally the taxi driver dropped us off at the beginning of the cobblestone path. Jared paid the tab without even blinking, and I shook my head. What I could do with that money. What my father could do with that money. Jared took my hand as we wandered down the path, until he finally sighed. There it is. Home. Well, it looks very nice. Very pretty. An elegant Japanese-style building rose out of the forests, built in what looked like a natural clearing. The path led right up to the door, and Jared helped me up the steps, apologizing for forcing me to wear such a restrictive piece of clothing. You ready? I nodded, my mouth suddenly dry. I was not ready. He pulled open the screen door and led me quietly into the room. Oh, is this her? Well, she sparkles too, it must be her. There, waiting in front of a large open room, stood the woman who could only be Jared's mother. She smiled as she saw Jared walk in, but then she saw me. She glanced at my yukata and the smile slid off her face. I see you came prepared. I should have expected less from my I shouldn't have expected less from my Jared. It's nice to meet you. I'm Hana Mizuno. I hope... Spare me the pleasantries. I don't plan on maintaining your acquaintance." Her words stung, but I tried as hard as I could not to let it show. Despite everything I knew about Jared's mother, a small part of me had hoped that she would somehow, for some reason, change her mind. Jared's face fell too, and I knew he had entertained the same hope. "Well, since you're prepared, you won't mind giving a demonstration to our guests gathered here." She stretched an arm out behind her, and for the first time I saw a small crowd of older adults lining the walls in the back of the room. My heart thudded against my chest, and I glanced across the faces. I knew these people. I'd seen these people in my mother's magazines, on cards that came with the pottery she bought. She called me into the room to show me her latest find, and tell me how one day, if at all possible, she'd love to meet Mr. Sato or Miss Sakura. And now they stood in front of me, flesh and blood, exacting looks roaming up and down my person. I straightened, suddenly panicked. I heard Jared softly curse under his breath. "You're running late. You've wasted their time. I do hope this will make up for it." I looked fearfully at Jared, but he just shook his head. His mother had purposefully given us the wrong time. There was nothing I could do. Of course she would. Jared walked to the back of the room and took a seat with the rest of the observers. And Jared's mother led me to the center of the room, and the equipment that sat out in front of her. As I sat opposite from her, careful to first bow and show proper respect to her, I started to gain a bit of confidence. She might try to mess me up, but I had practiced. I was prepared. I pulled out the equipment that I'd been using, and my heart stopped. I tried very hard to maintain a calm, serene expression, and dared to glance at Jared. He was pale as a sheet. The equipment sitting in front of me, some of it looked familiar, but others looked like something I had never seen before. Even the tea was different. Instead of the matcha I used with Jared, there were actual tea leaves. My hands started to sweat, then to shake. I didn't know what I was supposed to do for the first step. Oh no. I didn't understand. I practiced for hours. Hours. Every day. I knew what I was doing. I knew how to perform a basic oban teme flawlessly, and yet Jared's mother expected me to be at another level. At some kind of master level. My hands fell into my lap. I hung my head. There was a rustling amongst the people watching. I dared to glance at Jared's mother, fearful of the anger I would find there. Oh, she knew. She wasn't angry. She was smiling. I felt a gentle hand place itself on my back, and Jared was squatting next to me. "Take my seat. Don't worry." I nodded, tears pricking my eyes. I failed. We failed. I stood and bowed, and then took Jared's place at the back of the room, not making eye contact with anyone. Jared resumed from where I left off, if you could call it that, serving the tea elegantly and with flawless poise, as if this is what he intended to happen all along. Oh. He showed his mother the proper respect, despite what she did to us. I wasn't sure whether I was proud of him or angry at him. I mean, I'm definitely proud. That must have taken a lot of courage. Finally, the ceremony ended. As the guests stood to mingle, Jared instantly came to my side. "Come on, let's go change." He took me out of the room and over to a different area. "My room's in there. Let me know when you're done." I nodded sadly, heading into the room, but he caught my arm. "Hey. There was nothing you could do. I had hoped she actually meant to give you a chance, but I should have known better. There was no way you could have prepared for what she threw at you. That was a special form of ceremony, a tradition founded by the Nadeshiko family and only taught to our most loyal students and faithful supporters. There was no chance from the beginning. I wasn't sure whether what he said was supposed to make me feel better or worse, but I definitely felt worse. We're going to have dinner with her after the guests leave. Just try to be yourself. I'm sure she'll understand. He said that, but I could tell by the look on his face that he didn't believe it at all. I nodded and stepped into the room. The room was almost completely bare. There was a small cushioned mattress, presumably Jared's bed, and a few books and a single-tier shelf along the back wall. Other than that, nothing. I changed my clothes quickly. The room felt odd, almost hostile. I didn't feel comfortable here, not one bit. I emerged from my room, my yukata and jacket in my bag. Jared, was that really your room? Full of childhood memories, isn't it? I was too busy studying to have much fun. At least that's what my mom told me when I complained. Jared. I stroked his face. How much had he suffered under his mother? He never seemed to want to talk about it or give me details, but if this was anything to go off of... Jared took my hand away from his face, rubbing the back with his thumb. Not here. I'm sorry. I didn't like this one bit. I wanted him to stop apologizing. Wanted him to stop looking at me with that sorry expression. I wanted to get this dinner over with. By the time we dared to enter the room again, Jared's mother was seated at a table. The guests had gone. It's about time you showed up. Jared frowned, but gently guided me into one of the two seats opposite his mother. We bowed politely and sat down, at which some point she clapped her hands and a servant, a worker or a chef of some kind, brought in the food and scurried out. We picked up our chopsticks, but Jared waited as his mother picked food from the plate. I followed suit, watching her pick the best pieces of cooked beef, the juiciest looking vegetables for her plate. It wasn't a fancy meal. She clearly saw no point in pleasing us. When she finished, we served ourselves, and we quietly began to eat. I tried to be as polite as I could, all the table manners my father and mother ever taught me ringing through my skull, but there was no way I could match Jared or his mother. I hadn't expected anyone to exude more grace and flawlessness than Jared, but now that I saw his mother, I realized I was wrong. She was fluid, almost like a river, but for every calm, dance-like movement, I could sense the ferocity of a raging waterfall. She was absolutely immaculate, her makeup drawn on as if by a professional artist, her clothes wrinkle-free, looking almost like they were on a store mannequin. Not one single movement was wasted, not a single bit of effort expended that didn't have to be. She was exacting. She was ferocious. She was flawless. She was cold. I turned my eyes to my bowl. It had been 5 straight minutes and not a single sentence was spoken. I glanced at Jared and saw his lips pressed tightly together. I wondered whether he ever spoke to his mother first, whether he was even allowed to. When Jared's mother broke the silence, I almost jumped. So harsh was the change. So I have an alcoholic for a son, do I? I had a feeling this would get brought up. Damn. Jared swallowed hard, but he kept his eyes on his plate. Not only an alcoholic, but a delinquent. A bore. Someone who skips class and on top of that doesn't fulfill his obligations. Someone who makes vast promises to the populace but fails to deliver on them. Someone who begged and begged me for years to let him have a hobby. And when we finally set on a mutually beneficial agreement, someone who falls through in his biggest moment. Mutually beneficial? Was she talking about his modeling? Jared refused to speak, but I saw his eyes glaze over and his movements become robotic. He was withdrawing again. Now I understood where it came from. I told your good-for-nothing father that having a child would be unwise. But you know your father. Ever ambitious, ever loving, ever over-promising. And here we are. I shouldn't have listened to him. My eyes grew wide, my mouth dry. I set my food down and took a drink of water. This was Jared's mother. This was who he grew up with, who he returned home to every day as a child. This was supposed to be his sanctuary from the threats of the outside world. I shook my head. No. The outside world was probably his sanctuary from here. And you. Her gaze shifted to me, looking me in the eyes for the first time, and goosebumps rippled my skin. Don't think I haven't heard about you. When I heard my darling Jared was dating someone, I looked into your history. You, a poverty-stricken girl, a motherless girl, a homewrecker, another delinquent. How did she know those things? How did she know those things about me? I wanted to glance at Jared to see how he took what she was saying. I hadn't told him about my past, hadn't had a chance to explain what happened to me or why I came to Asagao. I kept those things to myself, wanting to leave them in the past, but now, in the worst way. Don't think I don't see through you. What do you want? Money? Status? Fame? I'll make sure you don't get a single drop. I'll make sure you and your worthless father return to exactly where you came from. Certainly that's where you deserve to be. This bitch. I'm basically speechless right now. I wanted to speak up. I wanted to say something to her, but her very presence coated the room like fog. And I didn't want to make it worse for Jared. Whatever happened here, I could come home and never see her again. Jared, though? Jared had to return here when vacation started. My anger and horror quickly turned into frustration, and frustration quickly turned to tears. Horrified, I tried to blink them back, but that only seemed to make it worse. Oh no. Causing a scene is probably going to make this 10 times worse. Ugh. As the first tear trickled down my cheek, Jared's mom beamed. And now you're crying. My, what a fragile girl. Have you no redeeming qualities? Oh shit. Jared slammed his chopsticks down on the table. His mother and I jumped, turning to stare at him in utter shock. His mother looked as though he just slapped her across the face. Ooh, it's getting spicy now. I am sick of this. Jared Knoppenbauer, you listen to me. No, mother, you listen to me. I have put up with you for 17 straight, horribly awful, painful, joyless years of my life. I begged and begged for you to grant me an ounce of happiness or sunshine every day, and you rejected me in favor of your own selfish greed and pointless ambition, all intended to hide your pathetic sense of loneliness and abandonment. I have finally found someone, who makes me happy, someone who showed me that I was still worth a damn even if I wasn't perfect, Someone who showed me that everything you taught me throughout my life was wrong.
No.
And I will be damned straight to hell if you think I'm going to let you take her away from me. I stared at Jared in awe, sparks practically flying off him. His mother gaped at him like a dying fish. As he looked at her face, his anger seemed to fade slightly. That way you want me to live is painful. It's claustrophobic. I'm sorry. I know what you want from me, and I know what you've sacrificed to get me here, but I won't live like that anymore, no matter what you try to do. I'm not perfect and neither are you, and there's a strong chance Dad's family won't recognize you no matter what you do. You should just accept it. You'd be happier that way. He hesitated. His mother watched him like a wounded animal, scanning his every move for hidden motives. What should be most important is how we feel about ourselves, not how other people see us. That broke the spell. Jared's mother folded her hands atop of the table, resuming her flawlessly cold exterior. Get out of this house. Jared bit his lip and stood. I stumbled to my feet after him, and we bowed quickly to his mother before heading for the door. Don't come back until you understand how to behave properly. Do you understand me? Until then, you might as well not have a home. Oh my god. Jared opened the door and ushered me out, pausing before closing it. Goodbye, Mom. I love you. Oh my god. He's so brave. Then he shut the door.
Jared.
I tried to approach him, but instead he shook his head, leading me back up the trail to the road. He took my hand in his, and with the other pulled out his cell phone and called for a cab. When that was done, we walked in a steady silence. Jared, I'm sorry. Jared stopped walking. What are you sorry for? I'm sorry that I messed up, and I'm sorry that your mother hates me, and I'm sorry that I never told you about my past, and I'm sorry for everything. Jared turned and pulled me into a hug. Please, don't apologize, Hana.
You're perfect.
Oh, you're worth it to me. Please don't let my mother get into your head. I looked into his eyes and nodded. Okay, I won't. He smiled and kissed me gently, ever so gently on the forehead. Thank you, my Hana. For everything. Wow. I'm just so overwhelmed by, how much courage that took for him to do that, and, how brave he is. I mean, especially if this version of Jared, at least, is 17, being kicked out of the house as a minor. There's, so much at stake there. And, I don't know, there's much more respect for his character, for me, but anyway. We slowly began the long trip back to Asagao. The drive up to the train station was long and slow. Traffic filled the streets, as we were leaving at rush hour, and the driver filled the empty space with nervous chatter about his 5-year-old son, and how proud he was that he got along well with the chickens. No doubt he sensed the leftover tension from our visit, and was trying to dissipate it, but instead he made things worse. Jared listened to the man's words and smiled a lopsided smile. I stared out the window, not sure what to make of anything. It wasn't until we were walking back to the dorms that I remembered my Normal Boots Club jacket. I took it out of my satchel and pulled it around my shoulders, smiling as it stilled my busy mind. I closed my eyes and took a deep breath. Right. Jared's mother might be something that he'd have to deal with, that we'd have to deal with at some point. But right now, our lives were at Asagao Academy. With the Normal Boots Club, with the Hidden Block. Jared's mother would come later. We could afford to shelve her for now. I opened my eyes and found Jared with his head in his hands. Worried, I put an arm around his shoulder. Hey, Jared, you okay? He shook his head. Don't worry. Everything will be fine. Somehow. How?
Well...
How? That's a good question. No, not that. How could you ever forgive me after what I just put you through? Well, none of that was your fault. Hana, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I naively thought, but I was wrong. I'm so sorry. Struck by the tone in his voice, I began rubbing his back in panic.
What?
Jared, it's okay. It's okay, I forgive you. You didn't do anything wrong. It was all your mom.
No.
I just sat there and let her say all that to you. No, you stood up for me, remember? You told her right the heck off. I bet that felt good. Jared wiped his face and sat up straight again, nodding. I bit my lip. But was what happened really okay? My mother and I will probably never see eye to eye, but I think that's okay. He smiled sheepishly, taking my hand in his. Ever since meeting you, I've felt so free. I never believed that anyone would like me unless I lived up to what they wanted me to be. I thought the real me wouldn't be able to measure up. Then, over time, I realized I was kind of messed up. And I thought that even if someone could have liked the real me, they never could like the broken me. I tried to work with it, and keep people at a distance, but to be frank, being with you has shown me that that's absolutely stupid. You and the rest of Normal Boots, yes, even Paul, care about me because of who I am, not who you expect me to be like. For as much as I've messed up, you've always given me the benefit of the doubt. You liked me regardless of whether I messed up. Regardless of whether I was perfect. Hana, thank you. I'm so sincerely thankful to have met someone as amazing as you. I didn't really do anything. It doesn't hurt that you're crazy hot either. Oh. Jared! I smacked him on the shoulder, but he laughed. Then he reached out to hold my face in his hand. Oh, this is all so cute. You really are the most beautiful person. You know that? Stop! I'm going to melt. I'm going to cease to exist. Jared chuckled, then drew my face to his. I barely had time to register what was happening before our lips met. In that moment, the only thing that existed for me was Jared. Time stopped as my eyes closed, and then Jared pulled away. Sorry, I know you don't like PDA, but I couldn't help it this time. No, it was fine this time. Jared laughed again and pulled me to his side. I love you, Hana. That was it. I was done. I was dead. There was no more Hana to exist. KO. Jared pecked me on the cheek as I tried to mumble out my response, the words getting caught in my mouth. Hearing my mumblings, Jared nuzzled my neck. Don't worry, Hana. I know. Best end. Yes. Wow, okay. This route was wild. I mean, like, Shane's route was just hard because there were a lot of, at least in my opinion, a lot of the questions didn't have, like, clear, direct answers. Jared's route just had a lot of stuff going on and it was pretty intense. Shane's route had a lot of focus on, like, just getting him to open up and talk to us, but Jared's route, like, the focus was just everywhere, so just so different. But yeah, I really enjoyed this, and, like, just getting into, Jared's home life and where his insecurities come from. And, I don't know, I thought this would be a lot of courting, I guess, like the romancing part, kind of like how it was in Shane's route, but instead it was like two people working on a relationship, and like seeing that being a couple is being part of a team. So I really enjoyed that too. This route was amazing, just like Shane's route, and yeah, I think I'm gonna try out one last route because this game's just too good. I don't really want to let it go just yet. Oh yeah, I totally forgot. I guess there's a scene when you get the best end. I'm sad we won't get to spend more time with each other. I wanted to spend more time with you. Yeah, that curfew's really annoying. But I can at least walk you back. I doubt I'd get in trouble for being a gentleman. Oh, Jared, ever the prince. All the best for my princess. He winked and I giggled again. Despite the fact that Jared still spoke the way he did, it didn't feel the same way. Gone was this weird feeling that he was standing on a stage, performing for an audience of thousands instead of simply speaking to me. When we were alone now, it felt like we were well and truly alone. We held hands as we made it to the girls' dorm. Over time, I became less uptight about PDA, and Jared got better at understanding what was acceptable in public. We had a rocky start, but at some point we realized we both made assumptions about what being in a relationship should be like, what Jared should and shouldn't do for me, what a good girlfriend was and what she wasn't. We held these weird ideas to the light and found that, like opaque crystals, they blurred everything we did, and we tried to look through them. After sorting things out, things got better. Of course, the truth was that things would never be truly perfect. We were very different people. Jared still had moments where he felt he had to grandstand, or when he had to put on a face for others, even around me. His mother still hated my guts. She tolerated me enough to keep me around, but I was sure that if Jared and I continued to date for long enough, she'd look into finding a way to get rid of me. And still, I had trouble articulating my feelings to him and decided what was something I should bring up and what wasn't. But for now, we were happy. We well and truly made each other happy. Here we are. Yup, here we are. I blushed as my hand touched the handle of my door. Maya's not supposed to be back from practice for a bit. Do you want to come in?
Oh,
yeah, sure. Yeah. Okay, good. Ooh, this is exciting. What's gonna happen now? Our faces as red as tomatoes. I pushed open my door and flicked on the light. Jared and I stood in the doorway, absolutely shocked. What? Oh, did these two get together? Nice! Maya and I patted her hair down nervously, and PBG grinned sheepishly from the floor. We were just, looking for aliens, right, Mai?
Bingo.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we were summoning them from the bedroom floor. Yeah, because there was, like, an enchanting circle, and, That's adorable. We're dating now.
Yeah!
Didn't I call this? Yes. I knew it. I so called it. Didn't I call it, Jared? You did call it. I called it. PBG sheepishly rubbed the back of his neck, and Jared walked over and clapped him on the shoulder, giving him a thumbs up.
All right.
Good choice, my friend. Right? You can't get much better than Mai, can you? Thanks. We should all go on a double date sometime. I smiled at Mai, who was watching PBG, and Jared have an intense whispered conversation. She was smiling stupidly, clearly over the moon and stars. I pulled her into a hug. I'm happy for you. Took him long enough, right? Hey! We all laughed. Mai pulled out a copy of Permit to Ride, a board game with tiny plastic trains sprawling out across a map of Europe, and the four of us played it all the way until curfew. This was my life at Asagao, and some days I couldn't believe it. But I had never been happier. Thank you, everyone, for everything. Oh,
Asagao Academy, Normal Boots Club.
I'm so happy that Mai found happiness in the end, too. Like, that's just the cherry on top for me. This room was so much fun. Oh my god. Yeah. I think as I mentioned before, I want to try just one more route of this game. Because I had like 3 bachelors in mind when I first had to make the decision. So I will be back soon with a new route of this game. So anyway, especially to those who have watched this far in my LP, thank you. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.